Number one, I don't believe in TIFA.
Why don't you?
Because TIFA is a fraud. TIFA and all these opinion poll people, they are paid. By who? Whoever pays them.
Now, greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and it's so great to have you on board. Now, you see, when you look at statisticians and economists, and even you talk of those who are professionals in finance and generally mathematics, they will tell you one thing, that numbers don't lie. So the moment anybody is making a prospect of the future and how they need to align things, almost all of, the things they work with, numbers will always be involved. So they will rely on the numbers and what numbers can do to give them the reality of what they are looking forward to. Especially in the economic setup, a government that is prospecting a future where, the lives of the people needs to be salvaged, and actually we see a robust turn in the way our economy is, progressing. Definitely, numbers must be at the very fingertips of whatever they are doing. So if they are supposed to rely on anything, then they need to rely on numbers. Now, in this case, I was giving you that, synopsis for you to know that it will be inappropriate for the President, William Ruto, to dispute the numbers that are coming from this, statistical bodies, which are trying to give us where the economy is.
So as the year 2023 draws to a close, the high cost of living and a deteriorating economy have been cited by Kenyans as a key issue of grave concern. Opinion polls released by TIFA and InfoTrack on Friday show Kenyans are worried about the cost of living, with 87% interviewed by TIFA saying there has been massive economic deterioration in the country under the Kenya Kwanza administration. 62% of Kenyans polled by InfoTrack feel the country is headed in the wrong direction. And as Mugi reports, the government has received a D grade from those polled, with Kenyans terming 2023 worse than 2022.
For instance, we will not be appropriately giving Ruto credit to, accept the numbers from, let's say, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, but at the same time, he is rejecting the numbers that are giving the exact opinion that the people have concerning the economic status. And, for instance, you talk of Kenya National, Bureau of Statistics was saying, they gave a report, they were saying that if an information is to come from the government about the well-being of the economy, then it's supposed to be that, the explanation behind the growth in, the GDP is only aligned or tuned to one specific angle, and that is the angle of bouncing back of the agricultural sector. Because they were saying that in 2022, we had a decline, downturn kind of, but in 2023, we had a bounce back. So in economics, when you talk about bounce back, a bounce back comes majorly to the sectors that are kind of considered to be staple in the economy. So meaning the necessities are coming from them. For instance, you talk of the agricultural sector, it is very, very basic, because that is where we get the staple food. So again, economics always says that for the bounce back to happen, you must see kind of government spending being so much robust on a given specific sector of the economy. And if you look at the moment William Ruto and the team came to office, they actually gave attention to the agriculture. That is why when they were talking about subsidizing the farm, input, of course, the fertilizer, and they were very much optimistic. At least it gave some turnaround, because during the times of Uhuru, the last bit, of course, 2022, we really had a serious downturn in the agricultural sector. So the aspect, the positive review that has come telling us that, our GDP has grown. In fact, the real GDP has grown by some given little percentage. That should not be enough to give William Ruto the audacity to say that he can only rely on the numbers from the real GDP. Now, I want us to look at why, it is time for William Ruto to see and embrace this wake-up call, and for him to know that we are making a submission that, dear Mr. President, numbers don't lie. And if he continues to reject these numbers, I think he's going to find it very rough. And actually, at the end of the day, when the cows will be coming home, it will be to his negative, detriment. if you look at one of the disadvantages of relying on the real GDP or the information that is coming out of it, most of the pundits in economics always say that if you only rely on the real GDP, it might be misleading because there are some other factors that it is not taking into account. Now, if you look at our economy right now, where we are, you will kind of try to note that the very thing that people are talking about is income inequality. And this income inequality is leading us to, the poverty levels. So when you are doing your calculations in coming up with the real GDP, you will realize that it doesn't take into account things like, the poverty levels and the income distribution or the income inequality. And those are the very key ones that we are seeing as a thorn in the flesh in the economy. So those ones can only be analyzed by how these other statistical bodies go to approach people, and then people give them the real information from the ground. So that is where you bring in the likes of Infotrack, these opinion polls and surveys that are going directly to the people. Because when you talk of the real GDP or just the GDP in general, we are just assuming based on how our country is given out production, okay, the productivity level. But we are not involving the people who are behind the production. So it is something which is very complicated. It is only giving, an ambiguous kind of, result that you cannot specifically rely on. But when you want to talk of the instances of income distribution, you also talk of, income inequality and the poverty level, which the real GDP is not taking into account. That one you must involve other statistical bodies. And if you talk of the Infotrack, what they were saying, they gave William Ruto a D, okay? And the truthful man was given an E. So you can just see that, that is, if it were a school, you are told to, a teacher will be writing to you, please see me immediately. Okay. And when you go to see the teacher, things will not be very much well. So if William Ruto and the government were to be sent to us as the people, because it is the people who are the markers, okay, the examiners, and they are sent to us, we will tell them that you are jokers, you are joking, you are not serious with the work that you're supposed to do. And so the more he continues to dispute what comes from the real people, which the GDP that is values from the GDP that is relying on is not giving us, then the more we are going to see him failing to take heed to what is really on the ground. And the more it will come to down on him that he wished he knew.